I actually think we stay in negative frequencies because we're afraid. We're afraid that if we actually move toward a positive frequency, we'll become vulnerable, or our authenticity will create liabilities for us because now people will see the real us, or they'll see the human us, they'll see the vulnerable us. I think it takes incredible courage to step out of your shadow and move into your light. And I think it's true with every one of these frequencies.
I think you gotta have a dream.
The School of Greatness.
Really?
Yeah.
Please welcome Lewis Howes.
How do we as human beings get to a higher level of frequency in our day-to-day life so that we can have a greater impact in our lives, whether it be our career, our families, our health, our service? How can we get there? And what are the different frequencies available for us?
I love that you're starting there.
Lob it up for you.
Unexpected conversation, but I think it's a really important one.
Yes.
Last year I put together a master class called The Art of Communication. And actually out of that, my son Aaron said, "Hey, Dad, could you put together like a 15-minute teaching that we could just give away to people?" And I spent the weekend thinking through, okay, what kind of communication, process could I give people? And I just went into this deep space where I didn't sleep for 3 days. And my wife saw me at 5 a.m. I was drenched in sweat, and she looked at me and says, "What is wrong with you? What are you doing?" And I said, I can't stop downloading this. And I feel like I downloaded a process called the 7 frequencies of communication that we ended up releasing. And I basically began to break down human communication on human frequencies. And one of the things that I think is really important is to realize that human beings communicate in frequencies, but they're not always positive frequencies. The same frequency can have a positive and negative expression of it. And when you're listening to different people, there are certain frequencies that you like to hear in, that you hear best, and certain frequencies that maybe you are repelled by and you actually shut down. And so a huge part of communication, people think, it's what you're saying, or even just how you're saying it, but I don't think it's that. I actually think there's a frequency that we communicate from. And when that frequency resonates with the listener, it creates this internal resonance where the person goes, yes, this is what I've been searching for. Or this gives language to what I've always felt. And in fact, when I spoke at your summit, right before I walked on stage, I had my talk kind of mapped out. I don't have an outline when I speak. I don't work from notes, but I work from the universe of thought. And then I pull down from that universe while I'm speaking. And right before I walked on that stage, I had been interacting with people, feeling the essence of your event. And I realized that your event actually has a dominant healer frequency, which I did not expect, because it's called the School of Greatness. So I thought it would have maybe a challenger frequency, or what I would call a motivator frequency, or a different kind of frequency, or even a commander frequency. But what surprised me, Lewis, and as I've listened to you more carefully, is I think your dominant frequency of choice is a healer frequency. That your internal intention is to bring healing to people from a place that you've been healed from.
Yes.
Or a place that you're processing healing from. Mm-hmm. And so your event is a healer event.
Yeah.
And so right before I walked on that platform, I told myself, start with the healer frequency, which I would say I almost never do.
Really?
Yeah. And I have a deep sense that I move to a healer frequency throughout my talks, but it's not usually where I start.
Interesting.
And so I've identified 7 different frequencies. They're not the only frequencies in the world, but I would say they're the 7 dominant or signature frequencies from which we communicate, which I would identify as motivator, challenger, commander, maven, professor, seer, healer.
Okay.
And when you listen to a speaker, one, if you go to Instagram, or if you go to social media, I think there's 2 dominant frequencies. One is the motivator. You can do it.
Yes.
You're awesome. You're worthy. You're great. And then there's the challenger, you owe you, get the job done, do one more push-up,
right?
There's more in you than you know. And then there's the third one out there, that's the healer,